Howdy, ladies and gentlemen. Your Aggies are 5-3. They're wanting to go bowling, but to do that, they're going to have to get through quite a big hurdle. They've got Ole Miss up this Saturday at 11 a.m. kickoff. The Rebels are 7-1. It's going to be a big, big task, in my opinion, to get through this. Tonight, instead of going through the stats like we usually do, I think we need to be a little bit more conversational with this preview. The reason why I think that's because the more and more I'm learning about this team, the more I'm starting to figure out, I think, that stats just don't tell the story of this team. They don't tell who this team is. They don't tell anything about them. We look at stats. We look at matchups. We need to go a little bit deeper. But let me get you into some of those. Let me talk to you about the matchup, about the other team, and give you some of their context because it is quite the task, especially playing away in Oxford. So Mississippi, they are the 93rd best team on third down conversions on offense. 86th in sacks allowed, 110th in TFLs allowed. Now this sounds good to us. This is a place that we have had quite a bit of success with and place that we like to try to affect the game. But they do have a top 30 rush. They have got a top 25 passing game. And what they don't have in third down conversions, what they give up in negative plays, penalties, TFLs, sacks, they make up for in explosiveness. They are the ninth best team in long plays. So they throw the ball down the field. They run the ball quite a bit. This team has 3 top 100 wide receivers. Jackson Dart is a top 40 passer, and Quinshawn Judkins, the beast that he is a top 40 running back. He knows how to shed blockers, and he knows how to get yards after the carry. So big task on offense. They like to throw the ball down the field. They do like to make easy passes. And this team is one that you probably wouldn't expect. They run the ball 3-2. So for every 5 plays, 3 of those are run plays. They got about 1,500 yards on the ground, just over 2,200 in the air. Quite the formidable offense. On the flip side, they are 56th in rush and pass D. Serviceable, not great, not bad. But they are 5th in sacks, 12th in TFLs. So they do know how to affect the passer. Not something we're happy to hear because this is some place that we have struggled mightily game after game after game. It does not matter who the opponent is. When we line up against a quality defensive line, we have had issue. They do have linebackers to get all this done as well. So they're getting to the quarterback quite often. We're going to have to really be on the lookout for this. They're 79th in third down conversions allowed, so kind of very similar to us in the mirror image of themselves on offense. They're allowing offenses to convert pretty regularly on third down, and they do give a fair amount of plays that are explosive. So they're 43rd in this, not the worst, but they could be quite a bit better. We're going to need to take advantage of that. That's something that we are going to need to take advantage of with our difficulties on first and second down. Now, they were able to amass all these stats, though, with a schedule. Now, you be the judge of the schedule. The teams that they've played so far, Mercer, Georgia Tech, Georgia Tech, Haynes King, lighting it up, sort of. Tulane, Vandy, Arkansas, Auburn, those are all the sort of second-tier teams they've played. They have played Bama, lost to Bama, played LSU, won to LSU. So they're currently 7-1. Context for A&M. Let's start off with this. If we played this schedule, what do you think our schedule or our record would be? Tell me if you think I'm out of line with this. I think probably, and I'm not going to give us the same thing. I think this is very realistic. I think we'd be 6-2 with that schedule. Okay? So give us a little context about if we played that schedule, we'd probably be just a tick better. So it's probably slightly on the easier side compared to what we have played. And maybe that's going to help level a few things out, give you some context about some of those nice numbers they have, like on sacks and TFLs. Maybe they've faced a fair amount of lesser offensive lines, okay? Not that they're going to get a much better one in ours at this point, but it is something. Also consider Last game against South Carolina, 30-17, right? 14 of those points came in the last 2 minutes of the second quarter. So whereas 30 points is something nice and it's something we can win this game with, we'd have to put together a string of plays like we did against South Carolina in the second quarter. Can we do that against this defense? They're better than South Carolina's, so it does stand to reason that we could struggle in this area, and we could possibly find ourselves not being able to even string together these kinds of plays, right? We've been pretty sporadic, like I was pointing to earlier. First and second downs, not great downs for us right now. A lot of times, maybe 50% of the time, I would estimate, we throw, we get a short gain, we get a incompletion, come back on second down and run it, and then we find ourselves in somewhere in the neighborhood of 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, or worse. Sometimes better, but not often. We convert a third down on a pretty good play by a receiver, or something works out in the run game and we gash them for, say 12 or something, and we continue the drive. Then we come up against a similar situation. We end up either punting or we're able to string together enough plays every third play or so, and we work our way down the field. This is essentially what happened a lot in the second half of SC. We're putting together some plays, we're making some plays, but we're not making enough that we can actually move the ball farther enough, consistently enough to get touchdowns, so we wind up with field goals. So yeah, so far, last 3 games, no touchdowns in the second half, only field goals. 3 field goals against South Carolina. We go into the half 21-7, I think what it was. We give up 10 in the second half, score 9 ourselves on 3 field goals. We've still struggled to score touchdowns. And with potentially more negative plays coming from a very much more competent defense in Ole Miss, we could find ourselves struggling quite a bit more to actually sustain drives in this upcoming game. So we've definitely been living on 3rd and 4th downs. Some positives to note on this to bring the mood up a bit, or we were 7 of 19 on 3rd downs, 4 of 4 on 4th down, which has been unheard of this season, and that was really our money down. So that was a combined total was 11 of 23, so just under 50%, right? And that's really how we won this game. South Carolina was 6 of 19, so just under a third of the time they were converting on either 3rd or 4th downs, and so we're getting them to either punt or turnover. That was the big difference for us. Those additional extra plays, especially on the 4th down, continued a lot of drives. Without those, we really would have been much more stagnant. We ran the ball this time on 4th down with much more force. We got much more kick with our offensive line. Very good positive to see. Was really thankful to see that. And the quarterback sneak, the screenplay, but especially the quarterback sneak. And we got really good yardage on this. It looked like we owned the line of scrimmage when we ran those plays. So there were some positives. There are definitely some things there to work with. And that's the context around this team. But like I said, let's dig deeper on this team, because I don't think stats matter as much. I don't think matchups matter as much. What I think is, at this point, what I'm learning is the team's identity matters much more. The question remains, who are we? Who are we? And let me try and describe the team. Let's start off just kind of by position group, I guess. It needs to go deeper than that, but it's a good place to start. Defensive line, they're nasty. They're strong on the run when they're in a 4-man front. They need some help to get to the quarterback. The secondary, struggling. They have issues in deep coverage, and they aren't schemed to be physical. They won't play up on the line. They're not going to reroute you, those kinds of things. Wide receiver core is very nice. We got playmakers throughout the whole core. We're schemed to run long, developing plays. That's something we wanted in the past, but now, ironically, we're like, this is not working out real well because we're not getting the ball out quick enough. But we have a solid stable of running backs. They're not without their flaws as well. They can miss blocks from time to time. They can make additional cuts that are not ideal for getting an additional 2-3 yards. And our QB play is average. And in large part, it's average because of the offensive line, but it's a combination of both. If I'm describing the offensive line, I'd say the communication factor is the biggest issue. And I think that defines them the best. They have a huge lack of communication between them, quarterback, and running back. Okay, they all need to work as a single unit to coordinate blocking, where that's going to be, and the lot. More specifically on quarterback, though, he's a tough as nails kind of guy. He's going to hang in there. He's going to throw the ball, but he's going to hold the ball. And he's going to go with his first read. He rarely comes off of it. If we can get him outside the pocket so he'll look downfield, he can find the ball down there. But generally speaking, he's kind of a loyal guy, let's put it that way, to his route. Okay? Linebackers, they're dudes. Best unit on the team, I would say. Mostly because they're headed up by Cooper. Jimbo said it at his presser. He said he's playing on the details. Okay, he's playing on the details. We're going to jump into that a little bit more, but you've also got York. Now, York is a student, right? And both are playmakers. But right now, Cooper is the guy who's the veteran. He understands what's going on. He is operating at a high level right between here. York is probably doing the same thing, and the defensive line and support with them are working. They know their role, right? They know their role, and this is kind of like the antithesis of what we see happening with quarterback and offensive line. But I still think the question remains: who are we? Now, if you haven't, this is the point where I want to say, go over and follow me on Twitter, okay? Not because I need a bunch more followers, just because it's fun. And I've learned a lot actually through this platform, especially today. Sent out a tweet. It was a play right at the beginning of the second quarter, about 12 minutes left in the second, and we're driving. And there's a point at which we're going to hand off to Owens. And when we hand off to Owens, what we find ourselves in is we're going up against an 8-man front. Now, some of the stuff I learned. Initially, I had called this as we were running into an 8-man box. And this was really mostly just kind of, quick armchair speak. I am an armchair quarterback as best as there is. I don't know nothing, to be quite honest. Don't put no stock in anything that I say. This is just me spouting off my opinions and giving you my take, okay? I'm no coach, no nothing, but I learned something, of course. And I did know this, but it's part of the way we communicate. I said he was running into an 8-man box. We weren't running into an 8-man box. There were 3 guys technically outside of the tackles, which made it only a 5-man box. However, we were running into an 8-man front. And so we started talking about this stuff, and I pointed out, I said, look, Anais is over here in the slot, and he is got a 10-yard cushion, and this is an easy 5-yard hook throw for Max for 5 yards. And we're not doing these kinds of things easy. My point was that we were making things too difficult. Now, what we ended up learning was that also Anais, because we already had 4 people in the backfield, because we had 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, and a tight end who was offset 1 yard off, we had to have another guy on the line. Anais wasn't even available to catch the ball. He wasn't even technically a wide receiver because he was on the line of scrimmage and he was covered up by the outside receiver. Okay? So if you're a slot receiver, if you're close to the tackle, you're not the outside receiver, you have to be 1 yard off. So somebody caught this, pointed out. It's again something I knew. It's just, but I'm not analyzing these kinds of ways. But it was great that we put all these conversation pieces together, and we learned a lot, and we had I think a much better understanding of what was going on. Points still stood. We were running into an 8-man front. And that's difficult. That's extremely difficult. I talked about how this was a struggle win, okay? Our offense is riding the struggle bus, and so we were getting struggle wins. A lot of the stuff that we're doing is just not made easy. We're trying to do it the hard way a lot of the times. Not always, but a lot of times. So it seems like if we get up there and we're got an 8-man front, we're going to stick to that play. And that's been the mantra of kind of what we are. That's essentially who we are. My thought is that our offense is still running the way Jimbo wants it to run. Somebody pointed out in the thread of this whole tweet that, if you looked at it, and technically speaking, we were running basically 2 running backs, 6 offensive linemen if you count the tight end, and we had essentially 6 defensive linemen. So we had a hat on a hat. In Jimbo's opinion, the person pointed out that this was probably what he thought is a favorable matchup and the one that we should win. And that may be correct. But it only takes one person to foul that up for it to go completely backwards. And this happens to us a lot, right? It happens to us a lot. And that is the team that we are at the moment. We could make things quite a bit simpler. But we're going to have to open up a few things. We have to have some options. I don't know if Max is unable to audible out. I don't know if he's just sticking with the single play. Maybe he's not given the option. I don't know. But neither one are great whenever we have a play called and the defense has something called that matches perfectly and helps them shut down that situation. We're going to see a lot this weekend, I think, by Ole Miss, and Lane Kiffin, I think, is known for this, where he's going to have his quarterback find easy throws. That's Jackson Dart's great at it. He's also great at getting outside and running up the middle. He's got some wheels on him. This was a factor in last year's game. So what is it going to take to win this game? It's a really, really great question, and I think I've got 2 answers for you because I don't see a lot of great reason to call for a win for A&M. It's not there, and I'm not one to mislead you. I like the Kool-Aid as much as the next, but I'm not a liar, okay? And I can't conscientiously say we're playing a 7-1 team. We're playing a team that's got this many sacks and doing this, and then go ahead and predict us to win. Based off of what? So I give you my score prediction. Obviously, you kind of know where I'm falling on this already, but here's what I do think it'll take to win. I think there's 2 ways that we can win this game. One, and maybe we're due for this, I think this would take something along the lines of a Calzada 2021 Bama type of effort, okay? And that game that Calzada played was pretty remarkable. He'll live with that game forever. He'll say he beat Bama, and that was one heck of a game, okay? That's the kind of effort I think it's going to take. I think everything's going to have to click for Max, and things will fall into place. Things will slow down for him, and all of a sudden, it'll just make sense for either for him or the offensive line. Okay? If not that, it's possible that our defense plays well enough, and I'll go ahead and scoop this one in there. There's kind of 2 ways, but they're really the same. We could win on a 17-10 type of game. So keep it close. Our defense plays really tough, really solid, and we hold them to 10 points, and we're able to eke out about 17 points when we win. That's one way to do it. What I think is probably more along the lines of something we might try and do is like an Auburn, I think it was 2021. A 20-3 type of victory. You get a scoop and a score, 1 other touchdown, 2 field goals kind of situation, and we hold them to 3 points. That type of next level wrecking crew type of effort out of the defense to hold them to basically nothing might be what it takes. So I think those 2 types of efforts are going to be what put us over the top if we're going to win this game. It would sure be nice to win. I'd sure like to be bowl eligible. I'd love to have 9-3 still on the table. As much as I am not confident in Jimbo at the moment, I am not ever going to root for this team to lose. I'm not rooting for them to lose so that we can get rid of Jimbo. That is not that. I don't think that's the Aggie way at all. So I'm not here to do that. But I'll give you my prediction. My prediction looks like this. Based off of everything we've known about this team, I don't think it's wise to expect that they're going to outperform themselves. They haven't really done it. So I don't really think that those other 2 scenarios are likely. So I wouldn't go off those for a prediction. Are they possible? Yes. Would I love to see them? Hell yes. but I think this is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 24-17 Rebels. I think it's going to take one more week before we go bowling.